Hey folks, this is Ben Yessel. How's it going? How's it going? Well, have I got some stuff on my mind, but probably not going to talk about everything. Probably not too many things. There's too much to talk about. Yeah. Well, uh, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on this weekend. It was just a massive amount of stuff. It was, wow, I don't know. I don't know how it was fun. It was great. It was awesome. It was just, yeah. Still kind of need to do some things, of course. Um, well, how to talk about this? This is one thing I wanted to talk about in this video. I've mentioned stuff about this before, but it's been in some earlier videos for sure. But I suppose it really just bears mentioning again. And again, just depending on how I'm feeling, I might talk about more stuff, or I don't know, make more videos, who knows. As you can see, I'm still my same self. I haven't really changed. Maybe, hopefully, a little wiser. I don't know. Hopefully. Uh, well, I'm beating around the bush too much because it's not exactly. It can be an enjoyable topic, but at the same time, it's. Uh, Internet culture is famous for uh, beating down people that say things that are incorrect, politically incorrect, and this is one of those subjects. So just make sure that you're not one of them. Pretty sure you'll be fine. Of all of my YouTube videos I've made, which most people haven't, I don't get too many comments on them, but I still do here and there. I'm very appreciative of at least the positive ones, but if not, a lot of comments in general. Of all my YouTube videos I've made, not too many people will respond about things like nationality and race and ethnicity. I think the reason why people don't respond to this sort of thing, but they respond in Quora, is because Quora has a quality about it that is refreshingly um, highbrow, at least in my experience. You know, I can't speak for all of Quora, but I think it's meant to be a bit more mature, level-headed. Um, say what you want about Quora. That just seems to me to be a very nice place to discuss things. So, um, YouTube, on the other hand, is maybe not so much that way. And I've made many videos about this subject, whether or not I'm talking about Europe or Asia or Africa or whatever. And granted, I'll be the first to admit I don't know as much about Africa still compared to the other areas of the world, or for heck of that matter. I mean, even though I had a brother that served a mission in Teresina, Brazil, there's still areas of the Amazon that I don't know very much as well. But I think that in general, the tropical rainforests of the world are some of the most remote areas of the world. So, of course, you could say the same thing for Papua New Guinea. And if you guys could name every single tribe in Papua New Guinea and all their customs and all their beliefs and everything like that, that would be seriously impressive. And I might consider that you might want to go into anthropology. So, because I'll tell you what, people in Indonesia that will watch this video, they probably don't know all the tribes in Papua New Guinea themselves, and they're neighboring that country. So, okay. Oh, I don't know. You could ask Australians, you could ask Samoans, Tongans. I don't know. Nope. I mean, Papua New Guinea is very remote, some areas of it. So I was just on Quora. I'm really not on Quora very much at all these days. I don't know why. I meant to go back on it, but I don't know. Maybe it'd be nice to get some income from your answers, but that's. I don't know. I've always felt funny about that. Anyway, depending on. I don't know. So this Swede answers a question about what does it mean to be a Swedish or to be a Swede? As in, what's the definition of the word Swede other than the rutabaga, other than the food type of thing? He's talking about which, what does it mean to be if you're a person, who is a Swede? Well, you could ask, as I mentioned on Quora, you could ask that same question regarding any nationality, except for possibly American or to a certain extent even Brazilian or some of the Hispanic countries that are very mixed and very whatever. If you're talking about the Americas, the Americas are the areas of the world where um, you kind of have a lot more of this um, people just coming here and and just a, a longer history of many different ethnicities in areas, um, as far as countries, so that but it's different than the old world. The old world was um, you had more specific kinds of people in certain areas. And so, of course, the Swedish guy gives an answer that you might expect him to give. And he'll be the first to admit, if you're Swedish, that means that you speak Swedish, that well, so you live in Sweden and you're a Swedish national and you speak Swedish and you know the culture and okay. Do you all accept that answer as being the answer to that person's question? No, we don't. Why don't we accept that answer as being the right answer, or the answer, like an answer that can just kind of put all the questions to rest? Well, just think about this for a second. As much as I loved Asia, well, as much as I love Asia, right? If I went to the Philippines, if I went to China, and I called myself a Filipino or a Chinese person, would they believe me? No. What if I got citizenship in China? Well, I don't know if you know that's possible. We'll just say that's probably not going to happen. But let's say I went to the Philippines and I became a Filipino via like nationality, and um, I learned Spanish, or I learned Tagalog. I became Filipino culturally and all this stuff. Would I be a Filipino? Knowing the Filipinos, they would probably be more inclined to say maybe. Oh, well, on some level, I'm always going to be a white guy. I'm always going to be a European American. We'll just say I am, for all practical purposes. I mean, you know, I love to be included with other countries. I love to be thought of as one of their own. It's an honor, but I'm okay. I'm okay with the thought of them seeing me in my kind of brownish, blondish hair, dishwater blonde, whatever you call it, or lighter brown, whatever. I'm okay with them seeing that, and my blue eyes and my light skin, and saying, I'm not a Chinese guy. Yep, I'm actually okay with that. I'm totally okay with that. Um, and I think people need to be comfortable in their own skin and comfortable with, their own culture, their own nationality, and even as though we don't always like to use this term in the United States, their own race. I mean, if you hate your nation, you hate your race, that's no way of being. That's not a good way. That's not a good state. That's not a good state at all. It's not the way to be. Now there's some very subtle ways that people can be this way. One of them is by denying that their race exists. And I've heard all kinds of things that you guys have also heard. And look, it just kind of boils down to this. It's kind of a question of how we view ourselves. And if we view ourselves a certain way, who is someone else? What is there someone else's, the rest of the world's, what, you know, why would we even pay attention to any of that crap that anyone else says about who we are? Well, because we're all human beings. We're all kind of part of the same human race, right? I've heard the same thing over and over again. You know, you know what I'm talking about. We're all brothers and sisters. It's just same, just like we comes from a different mama or whatever. I don't need to keep hearing that stuff over and over again. I don't. I'm a pretty smart guy. I'm smart enough to understand these things. It just occurs to me. Just something that just here and there, on occasion, it occurs to me that for thousands and thousands of years, you had like-minded people to one extent or another, or at least they tended to think of along similar lines with regard to who they considered attractive. You had people that kind of branched off from each other in the early history of the world, and they became kind of different peoples. Is that wrong? Was that evil? No, but that was ancient times. We don't. How can we know what was going on all the time? We try to learn. Right? There are some things that people did on their own accord, and some things that, in my beliefs, God did of His own accord. It wasn't wrong, and it did exist. There is such a thing as a Caucasian human. We call it human variation. Caucasians include not just Europeans, but Middle Easterners and Northern Indians as well. Persians, but the whole of Middle East, and of course India, they don't see themselves as European, and that's totally cool. Although racially, human variation-wise, yes, they are part of what's we call Indo-Europeans. There's an Indo-European language family. There's an Indo-European or Caucasian general race. It's the same deal with Asian. Same deal with African. Same deal with Polynesian. And there's Melanesians, Micronesians, and Polynesians. Same deal with Indian, Dravidian, whatever. Same deal with American Indian. Same deal with everybody. So getting back to this topic, who's a Swede? Well, see, because it has to do with it's not only what it has to do with not only how you see yourself, right, but it has to do with how others see you. So it's how you see yourself, which culture, which nation you identify with, and then in your heart of hearts, and then how do other people see you? So it's just saying, if you, in your own heart, if you feel like you're this way or that way, this or that way, then why the heck would you care about what other people think? Well, it's because we're all connected as humans, and so we all are paying attention to each other on some level, I would think. And so if someone says something that's we don't like, and it kind of digs in a little deeper, right? That can be very hurtful. That can be whatever. We would probably have a negative reaction to it on some level. If I were to say to an Arab, you guys are a bunch of crazy boys riding all over the forest, the forest, right? Sorry about that. riding all over the desert in your camels, right? You guys are on your camels all the time. You got daggers behind your backs. Don't make me shake your left hand. I know because that's what the one you wipe your butt with, you know. I mean, if I were to talk like that to an Arab, accusing them of stabbing me in the back with their dagger, right, as being a bunch of backwards camel riders, you know, all that stuff, right? And so many other things, the whole Muslim thing. Well, obviously, they're gonna have negative reactions to that. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to know that that's gonna happen. No, if you have comics that stand up and do comedy routines and talk about race in a very funny way, and that's healthy. It is. It should be. You know, I mean, how much material do we say is fine for people to have, for comics to have? I mean, and maybe culture is easier to laugh at than race because, well, heck, I mean, you can't do anything about your race. I mean, if someone says something about your race, it also implies all this physical stuff. I mean, yeah, it's it can be very sensitive. We all get it, so, you know. Um, but no, I mean, if I said that to an Arab and I was serious, I wasn't just joking around. But I wouldn't say it anyway if I was joking anyway. No, I would expect a straight up physical fight, man. I guess straight like he would be angry if I was really saying it in a really mean way. Of course. No, what would someone think if they came up to me and said, you know, the problem with you German Americans, you think you're Germans, but you're not. You're just these puny little Americans. You try to act like you're German or whatever. But no, you're just another lazy American that just watches TV all day and so it's talking about and I don't know, wannabe Europeans, or whatever. Yeah, you can have your Leavenworth, Washington. You know. Go have fun in Leavenworth, you German American. You're not real German. And someone accusing me of being a Nazi or something like that. Hmm. I've heard it before. I've heard that stuff before. I have. So how am I going to respond to that? Well, kind of depends on how hurtful it is. And the more mature you get, the more you kind of. But hey, I have my limits. I'm a human being just like everybody else. If someone were to infer that um, because I had German ancestry, that if I was in Germany during World War II, that I would have been a Nazi. Oh, that digs pretty deep. That's and maybe I'm just, I just want blue-eyed people to be around me, kind of stuff. All that whole thing. Yeah, blue-eyed folks are great, sure, so long as they're nice people, of course. If they're scumbags, no, we don't want scumbags around us. That's how we all are. You know, I have ancestors that thought blue eyes were kind of really beautiful looking. So, call that a German quality, call that whatever quality. It's in me too. I don't know where it came from. It's part of whatever my makeup. But I'm not a Nazi. And Nazis aren't people that worship people with blue eyes. Nazis are people that will beat the crap out of people that aren't Nordic because they're not Nordic. I don't hurt people. I'm not a Nazi. If you get the idea. But you could expect the same kind of thing, from anybody. The problem with this subject is that it keeps, no matter how specific that you try to be, no matter how much you're trying to resist all these other subjects, they're all related. It's hard to, you can't stop yourself. No one can stop themselves. One subject leads directly to another one. You can try your best, but, you can see how what I'm saying, I'm really speaking my real thoughts here, my real feelings. It's okay to believe in the reality of human variation, otherwise known as race. In fact, you should, because that's a real thing. You should, people should, not apologize for that stuff, because that is something that is completely independent of any choice we ever knew that we made, or we just were born that way. If you're born a certain way, that's neither a positive nor negative sort of thing. I mean, but at the very least, you should feel good about yourself, so you should feel good about your race. But not in a way that would make you want to treat someone like crap that wasn't part of your race. And then you ought to see people as much as possible as being part of the bigger picture of ultimately all of humanity. But I think, I was just mentioning the Middle East, I think it's great when I can have conversations with people from that area of the world, or they have some kind of connections with that area, and I don't feel like I'm talking to somebody that's considerably different than me. I feel like I'd rather dwell on the similarities rather than the differences. And it's the same deal with any other area of the world, but you know. Anyway, so as I mentioned in Quora, I'll mention this here. There's always going to be more than one definition of nationality. Why is that? Well, I was hinting at something I didn't say specifically, but I'll mention it now. It's not just a few young women I knew that were Vietnamese that thought so highly of Scandinavians as to want to be a Scandinavian, take on Scandinavian names. It's not just those few women that were Asian. But I've noticed that people that are not European, and in many cases we're talking about, so we're talking about people who are not European, but more people that want to be included with Northern European nationalities, right? There's a lot of people that want to be included in that group of people that are not ethnic Northern Europeans. Okay, so that's what we're talking about here with this, because the Swedes are Northern European, obviously. It's part of the same group. Um, just one country of a dozen or so, at least. So what's the problem with that? Is there a problem? No, but just like the Chinese or Koreans, or the Ibu, or the not Ibu, the Igbo, or most any other nation of the earth, face of the earth, how do the Chinese see themselves? Well, as being Chinese. How do the Koreans see themselves? Well, one of the things I would think is that they're Korean. you know, uh, so how would a Norwegian feel about themselves? View themselves? I would think they would say, "Oh, I'm a Norwegian." So apparently, how does a Swede view themselves? I'm part of the European Union, or I'm part of the human race, or I'm just the same as anybody else. And I hope you're catching my sarcasm because I'm laying on it pretty thick. We all know the Swedes want to treat people fairly. I know it's a part of their culture. They're very timid about saying that they're white. Oh, yes, they are. Oh, yes, they are. Oh, boy. It just, all that it means is, well, as you can see, I'm a white guy. Or I'm whatever else. It might mean something to me on some deep subconscious level, but maybe people aren't really ready to hear some of the stuff yet about what it means to me. Because they might get the wrong idea. Or maybe I haven't figured it out yet, and it's just conjecture. It's just speculation, and it's just emotional stuff, and I really don't know how to explain certain things, so I guess I better not. But if I'm talking to people, some certain people, family and family members, maybe I'll be more open about some stuff that I won't be open about in the public view, because in the public view we got all this political correctness stuff going on. I'm just gonna get misunderstood, misjudged. It's more of that stuff, right? I can see what some things are a mile away. a mile away before they even come knocking on my doorstep. And when it comes to things like this subject, uh, there's a difference between someone who just wants to be accepted for whatever reason with a certain group of people. We all want to be accepted. We all want to feel included. There's a difference between that kind of thing and then just being like, I don't know, weird about it. Weird about it. So just imagine, if you will, it's kind of a humorous thought in a way. I dye my hair black. I change my facial structure so that I have higher cheekbones and maybe a fuller face or a little bit fatter face. I somehow surgically remove all of the hair that I have, like facial hair and a lot of body hair is not there, and I kind of do some surgery on my eyes so that the eyes look a bit more like Asian eyes. Could I pass for an Asian then? Could I say I am now an Asian? You know, we've all thought about this sort of thing before. It's not a bad question. It's not. I think it's a very interesting question. I think it's a very interesting. Wow, wow. I don't know. Would a Asian person see me as being Asian? I don't know. Probably not. It's like, but it's a healthy thing to think about. It really is. It's very healthy. It's like, because we're asking, we don't always know what it means to be ourselves. We don't always know what does it mean to be. You say, oh, I'm just born a certain way. I am American by nationality. I don't have to be any other nation unless, I have my ancestry that obviously comes. I'm not American Indian, so obviously my ancestry came from Europe. You know. But it's really healthy to think about what it actually means. What does it mean? Well, what it means ultimately is something that is kind of just our own, our own minds. It's in our own um, understanding of ourselves. And if we find that other people have similar feelings, then that's actually pretty cool. This is the kind of thing that adds meat to the notion of the connections we have in a culture. When we sing the national anthem in the United States, and we're around people that we really do love and we are connected to, we feel patriotic. We know we know what it means to be an American. And there's other times, but being American is very unique because it's not based on race or something like that. It's absolutely based on do we love freedom and democracy? And many Americans don't, so they shouldn't consider themselves to be American if they don't love freedom and democracy. They're just taking advantage of a great situation in a great country. But again, I think I mentioned this before. I'll say it again. There's more than one answer to the question of what is a national. What does it mean to be a Swede? Well, it means being a Swede. Can you be a Swede and be an African? Sure, but that's one definition of the term. Can you be a African and be an ethnic Swede at the same time? No, but the question itself shouldn't really matter anyway. You're asking a question. Some people seem to be inferring that being of a certain race or is preferable because it's a better race. It suggests that train of thought, which it's not always something that's of a negative quality or I feel bad about myself kind of quality. But ultimately, again, everybody should feel um, like they love their own race. Because if it means anything to anybody, it's what it's who your ancestors were. What's a part of who your ancestors were. Or it's a part of your makeup, part of you, part of me. But no professor and no political pundit and no YouTube idiot can ever change our own feelings about what these things mean. And no politically correct Swede can change the minds of their fellow Swedes. And no one can say that these thoughts are some right-wing nutjob's idea of what it means to be a certain nation. And it's so ludicrous to think that way because most of the world's population will see themselves as being of a certain group of people, and that's okay. A certain nation. And a person from India will say they're Indian, and that's okay. They're not racist for thinking that they're Indian. So a German shouldn't feel bad for calling themselves a German. I mean, also by virtue of what they look like. But of course, World War II seemed to change a lot of this sort of thing in the minds of Europeans. We wonder why Western Europe and Anglo-America are so different that way. Well, for one, we had KKK in the United States in the Civil Rights era. And two, the Europe had World War II. But we have people that still have some kind of common sense about this whole subject. You guys, leave thoughts and comments below. Catch us later. Take care. Bye.